Hi, Marcia. See Marcia over there. This meeting is being live streamed. Okay, I'll say yes to all the things. So, do you want me to wait it all until anyone else joins, or just kick it off and start going?
I'm here.
Let them
Pat
in
can
as
be
we go.
here.
Good.
Okay, I will make you the host.
Perfect. Wonderful. All right, guys. Well, I'm seeing some familiar faces, which is awesome. I love when I see my people that I have got to been so blessed to work with over these last few years. For those of you who don't know me, I do see some names on here that I don't recognize. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ashley Remington. And so I think I can admit people here. Okay, so I'm Ashley Remington. I work for PD Well, very soon to now be called Heartland Neurological Therapy and Wellness. I met Sherry Prince through the Life Care Center of Elkhorn. I have been a rock steady boxing teacher for the last 3 years with Sherry at Life Care Center. When Sherry migrated over to join PD Well, I naturally just wanted to go with her and be a part of what she was doing. So I'm very grateful that I was able to join her in her mission and her passion and be able to be on board with her adventure here. So obviously you guys know we're PD Well right now. December 1st, we open our new facility, Heartland Neurological, which is super exciting. We'll have a home. We've been doing the Zoom world for the last 2 years since COVID hit. So I'm just super excited to get back in person and get our community back together. Again, those of you who don't know my backstory, how I got into this field, I was a former banker. I was in banking for the better part of 12 years. And in 2012, my oldest son, who is now almost 13, so crazy to think about, but my oldest son was diagnosed with autism. And through that process of his diagnosis, we found a local doctor that taught us about holistic healing, primarily with the focus being on nutrition. And so we started taking out a lot of components of his diet when it came to just unnatural foods, if you want to think about it like that. Something like Pop-Tarts would be considered an unnatural food, right? Something that doesn't come from the earth or from an animal. Taking out the more processed foods and then increasing the more nutrient-dense foods, adding more fruits and veggies, adding more lean proteins, more olive oil, nuts and seeds, whole grains. And we were able to see a really big transformation in his behaviors, primarily in his cognition. And he was able to join in the mainstream classroom. He was able to have a voice. He started speaking. He lost a lot of his aggression. And it was just, as a mother, like watching your child go through so many years of struggle to being able to flourish and to thrive. And on top of that, he had a bunch of health concerns from digestive issues, eczema, allergies, all these things. To watch everything in his life completely transform was powerful. And I went up to his doctor and I said, how come nobody ever told me this before? And his words, I will never forget him. He said, you are somebody, go tell somebody. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. So I went back to school and I left banking and I became a nutritionist. I became a fitness instructor, a personal trainer, a yoga teacher. Wellness just kind of took over my life. And I became very passionate about helping people feel their best because I was able to see that transformation in my own son. Now, with a group from Parkinsons, Nebraska, obviously you guys aren't on the autism spectrum like I'm talking about with my son, but all of them from Parkinson's to autism to all these other conditions going on in our world are all different conditions, different diseases that affect our brain, affect our cognition, affect how our brains function with our bodies. And we know, we have been taught when it comes to like when you guys first get diagnosed with Parkinson's, you're taught do your exercises, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. We're taught to do all these things that physically help our body. And maybe we'll get a little icing on the cake, if you will, of nutrition, how to take good care of our bodies, how to fuel our bodies from the inside out, how to fuel our brains, right? So our brain is made up of 70% fat. So when we want to fuel our brain, we have to eat some right? And back in the 80s, there was this craze that started, everything was low fat. And so we kind of have this system that we've been taught that doesn't help our body flourish. It doesn't help our minds, our brains to flourish. So one thing that I want to inspire you and empower you with today is to think of your nutrition as fuel, both for your physical body, so you can go do the things you love. The people who come to boxing, come do rock steady boxing classes with us, fuel you for your hikes, your walks, your spending time with your grandkids. You want your food to fuel your body, but just as important, we want our food to fuel our minds, right? And not just putting the things in that are going to fuel our minds, but taking out the things that are going to disrupt our minds, disrupt our thinking, disrupt that cognition ability that we all, long for and that we want to have, especially as we go through the aging process. So, when we're looking at the components of Parkinson's that a lot of people struggle with, we're looking at some things that just come with natural, with healthy aging when it comes to bone thinning, losing like muscle weakness, losing muscle mass, digestive issues, dehydration. Going back to the digestive issues, a lot of constipation can come with stuff like Parkinson's, primarily a lot from the medications, depression, weight loss. There's so many aspects, right? Cognition is a huge aspect. There's so many aspects about Parkinson's that we address from maybe a physical therapy or maybe from a medication standpoint, but we don't address so much the nutritional standpoint and how the different nutrients we eat, how it is going to impact all those different walks that we struggle with Parkinson's, with the conditions of Parkinson's. So that's where we're looking at the nutrition aspect. How is the nutrition aspect going to fuel all of those things? How is the nutrition aspect going to fight bone density, muscle weakness, digestive issues, dehydration, depression, unexplained weight loss or dramatic weight loss, things like that? So we're looking at the components of nutrition and how they can benefit and how they can improve those symptoms. So we really want to look at food as the fuel, as the brain fuel, as the energy that our body needs for repair, for growth, to thrive, right? Instead of just kind of surviving and just making it through every day, we want to be able to fuel the body to do all the components we want it to do. And we can't do that, unfortunately, when we're following something like I like to call the standard American diet. The standard American diet, also called the SAD diet, SAD, is, when you're looking at, so like when I first had my son, and I'll be the first to admit I messed this up. When I first had my son, it was Pop-Tarts and toaster strudels and pastries and donuts for breakfast. And it was SpaghettiOs and anything fast for lunch, and then frozen pizzas, hamburger helper, anything quick and easy. I am a working mother, so just trying to make things quick and easy was the components that I wanted to go off of. But there's so many other components other than just having our food taste a certain way, which is nice, right? We want our food to taste good. There's all these other components that I don't want to say weren't taught to me, because maybe they were taught to you, but to me, it wasn't taught. It wasn't something that I knew off the top of my head that I needed to worry about. Eating a balanced diet, right? Making sure my son got an equal balance of carbs and fats and proteins and water and vitamins and minerals and fiber, greens, vegetables, right? All these things that are going to fuel our bodies to feel their best. And so that's where we can kind of take this information and start to apply it into our lives and say, okay, what sort of things do I need, especially with a condition like Parkinson's, to feel my best, to combat the symptoms that I'm having every day? So we want foods that are rich in things like calcium, magnesium, vitamin D and vitamin K, silica, fiber, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all of these things that, unfortunately, when we're looking at the standard American diet, the highly processed food diet, I'd say about 90% of our grocery stores, all the foods in there, they aren't full of those nutrients that are going to help combat stuff like muscle weakness and bone thinning and digestive concerns. We need the foods that have all those nutrients in them to fuel the body from the inside out, to fuel our minds so our bodies will perform the way we want them to. So we can get foods like that from stuff like asparagus and cucumbers and dark leafy greens, cauliflower, berries, apples, bell peppers, your legumes, your whole grains, lean proteins, I should say like lean animal proteins. So like your fish, your turkey, your chicken. So turkey, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Eat some turkey tomorrow. Lots of full of good nutrients in there for you. But lots of water. All these
There
things
they
are the things that are.
Speaking of turkeys.
Somebody's talking about turkeys.
That's me.
Dave's
Ciascio.
talking about. Hi, Dave. How are
Actually, it was Kathy, not me.
Hi, Kathy.
We got a
Hi.
group of turkeys out in the yard right now. I'm picking one out for tomorrow.
That's awesome. So cool.
I didn't know
That's
our
so
audio was on. I gotta mute you or mute me.
No, I love interaction. And actually, after I get done with my whole spiel here, I want to just open up this conversation so that we can just talk to each other, right? Like, I don't want you just sitting here listening the whole time. I want this to be interactive. So please unmute yourself and ask questions as you see fit. So as I just talked through all those components of the things that we need to increase the nutrients to combat the things that we're going through with something like Parkinson's, I want to kind of I like to know different categories. So like if I was going to do research on my own, I would like to know where to start. So if we go backwards here, in 2012, the Movement Disorder Journal put out a study and it said there are lower risk of PD and delayed symptoms following something called the Mediterranean diet. Now, I am not a big fan of rules in the aspect of, like, if I give you a set of rules and say you have to follow the Mediterranean diet, you kind of set yourself up that you could potentially get it wrong, right? And that's not what we want. We don't want a situation where we're put in a pressure to get it right. I don't necessarily need you to get the diet right. I need you to just start to increase a lot of the foods that are included in the Mediterranean diet and start to decrease a lot of the standard American food diets. The foods that come with the diet. So the Mediterranean diet is primarily, we'll call it plant-based, not vegetarian, but putting like an emphasis on reducing the amount of red meat that we consume. When it comes to meat, we are looking at, hi Dave, I just see his camera came on there.
I just want to mess you up, Ashley. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate, I saw them moving around. I love it. So decreasing the amount of the red meat, we want to increase the lean protein. So you're looking at like chicken breast, you're looking at fish, shrimp, shellfish, turkey, things like that, right? And then, but the primary part of it, that's just a little asterisk of it, of the lean protein, is vegetables. They're huge components on your dark leafy vegetables, your fruits, your whole grains, your legumes, your nuts and seeds, olive oils, avocados, coconut oil, all these things that are going to fuel the body with healthy fats. Remember at the beginning when I said our brain is 70% fat? So fat actually acts as a deliverer of nutrients into our body on a cellular level. So our body is just made full of all these cells, like 9 trillion, 10 trillion cells inside of our bodies. And if we want something like the vitamin K or the vitamin D or the calcium or the silica that's in all these vegetables and fruits and legumes and nuts and seeds, if we want all the nutrients in there to get developed into our body and to be absorbed on a cellular level so that we can utilize them, we need those healthy fats. So that's where we can't neglect or forget about stuff like avocado oil, avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, nuts and seeds, salmon, those things that are going to be kind of higher in fat, but they're a healthy fat, right? Have you ever seen, this is a funny meme that I saw one time, and it was a picture of an avocado and he's like crying and he's running away. And this person in the background said, but you're the healthy kind of fat, right? And it cracks me up every time. Those are the things we want from the fat that comes from like a French fry or a chicken strip, something like that, that's deep fried and breaded. That's not the same kind of fat that we're talking about when we say we want the healthy fats that would be included in something like the Mediterranean diet. with the Mediterranean diet. So that's all the components that the Mediterranean diet includes. Again, I'll go through it one more time. You have kind of primarily plant-based. So lots of veggies, lots of fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, olive oil, avocados, and lean proteins. Now, what the Mediterranean diet is either eliminating or just drastically decreasing is a lot of high salt. So your high sodium foods, high sugar foods, including artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are going to be stuff that you would find like in a Diet Coke or like a sugar-free Jello, something like that. There's a lot of studies. I encourage you guys to really dive into this information. There's a lot of studies out there when it comes to our cognitive health and how that is correlating to the artificial sugar consumption. It's kind of like doing this thing where it's called like an excitotoxin, where they take this artificial sweetener and then they're studying it and like what it does to our brain. It makes our brain very, very excited. And then our cognition starts to just decline because it's kind of eating away like our brain cells. It's fascinating information. It would take me an hour to explain that all to you. But with the Mediterranean diet, they're decreasing sugar and artificial sweeteners, and then decreasing a lot of just the highly processed foods, stuff like fast food, your pizzas, your hamburger helpers, things, anything that would come more from a box and less from a plant. So that's kind of in a nutshell what is involved with something like the Mediterranean diet. One component that I thought was very fascinating when it came to the research specifically, I'm a big fan of the research because I want to know is it evidence-based? Does this have a backing to it? In a book called Brain Maker, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this book called Brain Maker. It's from a guy named David Palmuter. I probably butchered his last name, but in his book, he said that according to recent studies in a journal of neurology, seniors over the age of 65 who ate 3 to 5 servings of greens specifically. So you're looking at like collard greens, kale, spinach, arugula, all the dark leafy greens. 3 to 5 servings of dark leafy greens a day were mentally 11 years younger on cognitive tests than those that did not eat those dark leafy greens. Who doesn't want to be 10 to 11 years younger cognitively? Marsha doesn't? She goes, no, I want to be cognitively smarter. Right? So it's things like that. Those are the brain foods that we're talking about. We can make a whole list of all the foods in our standard American diet that we need to avoid, that we need to decrease. We can make a whole list of that. My mentality is I like to have like a positive mindset behind it. And I want to focus on all the foods we can increase. What can I add to my diet to help with my cognition, to help with my physical ailments that are going on, to help with digestion, to help with, the repairs of muscle tissue and bone thinning, all those things. What can I add? So what you can add are all the vegetables in the world. So is anyone, and you can unmute yourself when I say all the vegetables in the world, I totally mean that. Can anyone tell me, do they eat 3 to 5 servings of vegetables a day? Not fruits and vegetables, I'm talking just vegetables. 3 to 5 servings of vegetables a day. I see a couple hands.
How big is a serving?
About the size of your fist. That's kind of, if you're going to eyeball it, about the size of your fist would be considered a serving of vegetables. Yeah. Most people, like I've been doing nutrition coaching now, again, going on close to 10 years. Next year will be 10 years. Most people I work with, I'm lucky if I can get them eating 1 serving of vegetables a day. It's very rare that they're above that 1 serving. So there is a woman named Terry Walls. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. Some of you people like that come to PD Well have heard me kind of talk about Terry Walls before. She's got a book called The Walls Protocol. WAHLS is that. She also has a really good TED Talk called Minding Your Mitochondria, kind of talking about the body on a cellular level. In the Walls Protocol, she uses this protocol to heal people from multiple different conditions and ailments and stuff. She recommends 6 to 9 servings of vegetables a day.
My name.
It's a ton, right? It's a ton.
My name is up here, but they can't see me.
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I've been on it since we started, but thank you for having it.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, Marcia.
I love that you guys all know each other and you're this big, happy community. I love it. But so the point of that was Terry
Yeah.
Wall's 6 to 9 servings of vegetables a day is like what she's recommending to people. And where I like to start with people is depending on where you're at. So everybody's nutritional needs are going to be different. I do recommend you either work with a nutritionist, a dietitian, your doctor, just to kind of get your own individual needs as you specifically, because your needs are going to be different than mine. But all of our needs can be wrapped up in the fact that we all need minerals and vitamins and nutrients and fiber and things like that in our diet. But the Wall's protocol is saying like 6 to 9 servings of vegetables a day, which is a lot. It's for some people unattainable in the beginning. You can get there definitely. But just starting to get yourself to like 3 servings of vegetables today, 3 servings of vegetables a day is a really good starting point, just to kind of get you kicked off and kind of moving in that right direction. Along with adding in the vegetables is pairing it with those healthy fats. So when you're looking at something like broccoli, put a little olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, avocados, put like a little bit of fat with the broccoli. If you're having something like an apple, pair it together with some almond butter. So then that way, again, you're getting the healthy fat from the almond butter and you get all the nutrients from the apple. And then it just kind of creates this nice balance internally inside of our body so that we're getting all the nutrients we need to fuel both our body and our mind for success. Again, walking through those ailments that we have on a day-to-day basis. I want to open it up because at this point, I want you guys to be able to ask questions and I want to be able to get a little bit more specific on the struggles that you have or the questions you have when it comes to nutrition with your own personal walk. So I am just going to pick, if you're okay, I'll just go to each person just so like not everybody's talking all at once. And then if you guys, if you don't have a question at all, you can just say pass and no big deal. But Marcia, you're the first person to my right. What questions or concerns do you have nutritionally?
Okay, I do have a question. Okay, I get mixed up with these servings. Okay, if I put a fistful of peas and carrots given together, is that just considered one or is that 2 servings or would I need 2 fistfuls of that medley?
Yeah, so a fistful would be 1 serving, even if it's 2 different vegetables within that fist. Those would be 2. Marcia's like, darn it. I was going to hit all my veggies with that. So yeah, you would want like a fist serving of each one of them together. But to be even more specific when it comes to the servings that we need, if you're looking at the dark leafy greens, so your kales, your collard greens, spinach, romaine, arugula, things like that, it's actually 2 fists equals a serving. So if you're going to put spinach on something, you want 2 handfuls of spinach would equal 1 serving. And then something like peas, 1 fist size amount would be a serving. If that, hopefully that helps a little bit there. The other component that I would really like to add in, I know I'm talking a lot about those dark leafy greens because that's specifically what the Brain Maker book talks about is those dark leafy greens, how that can help the cognition improve by 11 years based off of those who ate the greens and those who did not. The other component is to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. Now, when I say variety, you're looking at, you have like your orange fruits and vegetables. So you have your bell peppers, you have oranges, you have sweet potatoes, you have white fruits and vegetables. So apples, they're going to be white on the inside, red on the outside, but they're considered white. Cauliflower, mushrooms, things like that. You have your yellows that are going to be more like your bananas and your yellow bell peppers. You have obviously the greens, all the dark leafy greens, bell peppers, cucumbers, green beans, those sort of things. And then you have like your red items, your red bell peppers. So there's all these different, each color of vegetable and fruit kind of has a different nutritional density to it. So we just highly encourage you to eat the rainbow and eat as many of those fruits and veggies as you can from all the different color groups. If you can get every color group in your whole day, you get like a big gold star. Those who come to boxing, they ask me, what do you get to do with these gold stars? And I'll say, well, you just get to keep them. But you give it a big gold star for getting all the colors of the rainbow into your diet. So it's very beneficial there. I am going to pick, I don't see her right now, but Patty of Paul and Patty, are you with me? I saw her just jump off, so she may not have. How about Suzanne?
Oh, not even close.
Are you with us, Suzanne?
Yes. Well, I'm glad to
How
know
are
I'm going to be good. I'm glad to know I'm going to have good cognition. I eat greens. So I am
She's a
whole
woman
food.
after my heart.
Yeah, but I am whole food plant-based. So
Oh, wonderful.
I don't do the oils. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
My
good.
cardiologist said absolutely no coconut because it's so saturated for me.
Yeah,
For
I would
me
say it's
personally.
definitely individual. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
but sadly, my Parkinson's husband is, we live in a divided household, we call it. He said to a friend recently, she really eats a lot of leaves.
Nothing to make you feel good.
Maybe, but
feel
he
good
will.
eating all those leaves.
I know, I wish he would eat the leaves, but he does not, sadly. So,
Yes. So Suzanne, I don't think I've met you before. Your husband is the one with Parkinson's. You're a caregiver.
correct.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for
Yes.
joining us. Thank you.
Yeah.
How long have you been plant-based?
Very seriously, probably a year. Yeah, my breakfast always has kale and Swiss chard and 5 fruits minimum, and pumpkin is always in my breakfast. So I get a lot of colors and
Love it.
So, yeah.
Do you mind if I ask, since you have switched to more of like a plant-based diet, what are some things that you've noticed? Like either how you feel physically, mentally?
Yeah, I feel good. I lost weight and feel like I can move easier, and I don't know. Yeah, I just feel good.
What about like from a mental standpoint? Do you notice any sort of mental clarity, cognition improvements, anything like that?
I wouldn't say there's been a lot of change. No, but I'm
Nice to have
still,
somebody
I
who's
think
walked through it.
I'm still pretty sharp, I think. So I hope it'll just continue.
You seem sharp to me, so
Well,
I'll give you one of my gold stars there.
oh, good. I don't know what I'll do with it either, but thank you.
You make a little collection of them.
So, yeah.
Did you have any questions today over nutrition, especially when it comes to Parkinson's specific?
No, would my takeaway be just eat healthier and less processed and yeah. The only issue, I know Rick has gastroparesis, so that is,
Yes.
and I'm sure if he were to eat the way you propose that would help him, but
Yeah.
do you have any specific thoughts on gastroparesis, which I think a lot of people suffer from?
Yeah. It really depends on the person specifically. And I would definitely more, when it comes to like a medical question like that, I would steer you more to your doctor just to make sure that that is lined up with the treatment plan that he has for you. But overall, anybody would benefit, even like with something like that, taking out a lot of the processed foods. A lot of people are really sensitive, especially with the digestive component, to stuff like dairy, gluten, just those really highly inflammatory sort of things for the gut. So I would definitely, those would be like an area that I would kind of direct you towards.
He loves those things. He loves all those things.
Yeah. And that's where, it comes to, and this is something, I was going to at the end wrap up with, but I'm going to just throw it in here now. It comes to the fact that it becomes an experiment with your own body, because there is no black and white when it comes to nutrition, right? Like certain people can't have, like you talked about your cardiologist telling you with the oils and the fats to kind of dial that back. My son has dairy issues. I have dairy issues. So dairy is going to be more sensitive to my body. Everyone is so unique in our genetic makeup and the dietary needs that we have, especially when we start throwing medications in there, right? Because there's some medications that the protein is going to really throw our bodies off. And some other people need a lot of protein. So it really just depends on the person. So that's where I like to advocate for people to do an experiment. And when you do the experiment, keep very detailed food journals. That's something that I did when I first started this journey with my son and with myself, is we just kept very specific food journals, and we started to notice a trend. So something like IBS, any sort of digestive concerns, you can start to tie together, hey, did you notice on the days that I had yogurt or dairy or cheese or whatever dairy component you want to talk about, this aspect, this condition flared up a lot? Or did you notice on the days that I had a lot of sugar, my mood, stuff like depression, like there has been studies done recently in like a lot of the medical journals talking about women who ate a higher diet with fruits, vegetables, fish, whole grains, low sugar, low on the artificial sweeteners, that they're less likely to suffer from depression. So again, depression is one of those symptoms that we deal with Parkinson's as well. So you can start to notice, and like my husband would tell you, on days that I eat like higher sugar, I get a little crankier, a little snappier, a little bit more low in my energy and my mood. So those are some things, as you do your own experiment, that your husband, Suzanne, like what you were talking about, but he loves those items. A lot of times when we start to piece together that these foods that we love make us feel a way that is less desirable than what we want to feel, we're more likely to want to give them up, versus somebody telling me, like, if somebody came up to me and said, Ashley, you can never eat a chocolate chip cookie again for the rest of your life, I would be like, but I love them. But if I tie together that the cookie makes me cranky, makes me snappy, gives me no energy, messes up my digestion, messes with my skin, aches and pains and joint pain, all the inflammation type stuff, I'm more likely to say, well, I'm not really enjoying how this food is making me feel. And my goal is that I want to feel this way. And I can get very specific in the life that I'm trying to create and say, well, this is not supporting the life that I want to create. Then you're more likely to give up those foods, or at least decrease them, and maybe only have them at times like Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, things like that. Because they're not connecting with how you want to feel. So you might be surprised with your husband if you have him kind of keep a detailed journal and he starts to notice, especially from like you're talking about the digestive standpoint, he may notice that dairy really messes with his gut a little bit. And then he might be more likely to take that out, versus you telling him, hey, don't eat this.
I mean, he has a gallon of milk every 2 days.
Yes. I understand.
Anyway,
Yes.
thank you.
And
Yeah.
it's baby steps for sure. Most people that I've worked with in this specific field, the people who have sustainable change and, kind of keep their sanity through the process, they baby step their way into it instead of like overhauling their life overnight. Not saying it's impossible to completely swap out a standard American diet for a Mediterranean diet and not do it overnight, because you can. But the people who make it sustainable and can stick with it long term, they kind of take those baby steps. So maybe just introducing some of those vegetables to him a little bit at a time. Maybe swap some of the milk for an almond milk or something, an oat milk, something like that, and see how
It's currently eggnog is his
Eggnog.
beverage of choice. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah. How about Patty? Are you unmuted right now?
I am unmuted.
How are you?
So I'm thinking probably one of my biggest questions right now is, you mentioned different foods that cause the inflammations. Which ones, I guess, do the opposite? Which ones would help me get rid of achy joints and stuff like that?
Yeah. So the biggest components when it comes to an anti-inflammatory are going to be right back on that same component when I talked about your healthy fats. So avocados, any sort of fat that's a healthy fat, not the bad fats. Any healthy fat is actually considered anti-inflammatory inside of the body. A lot of more like you're looking at like the proper ratio of like your omega-3, 6, and 9s. So your salmon, your avocados, your olive oil, any sort of nuts and seeds. So walnuts are really great for like brain health too. But all of those components are very anti-inflammatory. But then pairing that together again with those vegetables are going to be very anti-inflammatory inside the body, because the nutrients start to bring down the inflammation, and then pairing it together with the healthy fat will help to kind of keep that inflammation at bay too. For the majority of people, so I always like to tell people, like, you can't supplement yourself, or you can't necessarily just add in all the good stuff, which is good. That's where we want to start. But if we're putting something inside of our body that's causing inflammation, and then we're just trying to kind of anti-inflammation with the healthy fat, the nutrients, you know, again, you're looking at stuff like kale and collard greens and all those dark leafy green vegetables. If we're putting something in our body that's causing it, i.e. the three most common inflammatory foods in the standard American diet are dairy, gluten, and sugar. Those are the three things that cause the most inflammation for people's bodies. Now, that's not everybody. Again, there is no one size fits all when it comes to nutrition, but those are the three most common foods that cause inflammation inside of our bodies. So if we're eating, let's just say we're eating a diet full of like, I'm eating my Sara Lee bread, the real white starchy bread. You know, I'm eating cheese all day long and dessert at night. So I'm eating lots of dairy, lots of gluten, lots of sugar, all these things all day long. But I'm trying to combat that with the healthy fats and the nutrients from the vegetables and the fruits and stuff to anti-inflammatory. We're not really going to solve the problem. We have to take out the inflammatory foods and then increase the anti-inflammatory foods to keep the inflammation at bay. So we kind of need both. I like to start with adding in the anti-inflammatory and then slowly pulling out the inflammatory. So again, it's really going to depend on if you're okay jumping in and doing everything all at once, or if the baby step approach is better for you personally.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure. How about Joan and Mike? Any questions from you guys when it comes to nutrition?
Are you going to be there on the 30th?
I am.
Okay, we would like you to talk to our daughter who's bringing us out. She's a registered nurse. We have a great grandson who's autistic
Okay.
and he's had a lot of problems. And,
Okay.
He's now 5.
Okay.
I think that would help my granddaughter a lot to know about the food component to him. He's very selective what he eats, and that's also a problem. He doesn't know if it's good for him or if it isn't good for him.
I'm sorry, I realize this is off topic to other people, but
Oh my gosh, no, there's nothing off topic. Nothing. We're all family here, so. No, and I'd be happy to talk to her for sure. You know, the nutrition aspect, you know, when it comes to whether it's a kid with autism, whether it's an adult with Parkinson's, whether it's someone with MS or, you know, all these cancer, all these different conditions out there, food is our base. Food is the foundation of our health. And a lot of these conditions are spiraling off of the fact that our bodies are starving on a nutritional basis, because again, we're just really not taught it, you know, and as the world progresses, we just get so trapped in like the fast, cheap, easy, quick, you know. I hear this line all the time. Well, this was cheap and this was quick and I'm busy and whatever it may be. At the end of the day, when it comes to something like our food, we will pay for it one way or another if we're looking at just cheap. A lot of times that can be paying for it on the back end with our health. So we're going to pay for it through our medical bills, through medications, through time away from the things that we love, or we can pay for it by buying clean, healthier foods, which there's an argument out there that healthier foods are more expensive, when in reality, our grocery bill, if we buy a lot of the processed, let's say organic cereals and organic potato chips and organic this and all the stuff that's still packaged, gluten-free pizza crust, again, going back to the son on the autism spectrum, getting a 5-year-old to eat more fruits and vegetables, you have to get very creative with it. So we have had to purchase more of the processed packaged things that are a little bit healthier of a swap. But the goal is to just transition more to like the plant-based. And a lot of that stuff is actually way cheaper than buying a lot of these processed foods. So in the long run, it typically ends up saving you money. It's just in the beginning, since you're just transitioning from like a standard American diet to more of like plant-based or whole foods, clean eating, whatever Mediterranean diet term you want to use there. It can just be trying out some different ingredients that can be a little bit more expensive in the beginning. But once you get a system down and you have like a good recipe selection of, let's say, 10 to 15 recipes that you really love, like our grocery bill is the same now as it was then, maybe a little bit more expensive just because he's almost 13 and he eats more than when he was 2 or 3. But overall, the amount of food and stuff that we're buying, we're still spending the same amount of money. It's just swapping, you know, the SpaghettiOs for something a little bit healthier. So what about Dorothy? How are you doing?
Okay, my question is, and
Yeah.
Suzanne hit some of it, but I think introducing more vegetables is much easier done at lunchtime and dinner, and a little bit harder one at breakfast.
Yes.
And I've used spinach at breakfast, but you know, that's kind of the dilemma, is how to mainstream that meal into more plant-based.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I mean, there's a couple ways that we can really take that when it comes to breakfast specifically is oats, right? So if you're going to have oatmeal for breakfast, oats is considered plant-based. So, I mean, it may not be vegetables, like when we're talking about increasing the vegetables, but like having something like oatmeal without a bunch of the sugar and stuff on it. We talked about that when we had a support group the other day. But just increasing, like swapping something like Pop-Tarts for oats, like whole oats, is going to still be plant-based. But when we're talking about vegetables specifically, 2 of my favorite components to get veggies in at breakfast is any sort of a scrambled egg. If you're an egg eater, some people are not egg eaters, but if you are an egg eater, add in any sort of vegetables to your scrambled eggs. So whether that's something like a frittata, you know, you can put, that's one of my favorite post Thanksgiving meals, is taking like a frittata and then put your leftover turkey inside the frittata with all the vegetables in the world. So you can put spinach in there, you can put kale in there, you can put zucchini in there, squash, bell peppers, broccoli, cauliflower, you put all the veggies right inside like a frittata. Kind of quick, easy, on the go. Again, if you're an egg eater, if you're not, I'll get to that in a second. I've worked with some people lately that a lot of people are starting to get away from eggs now. So trying to get more creative with that component. But have you ever seen, like, you take your muffin tin, so regular muffin tin that you buy at the store to make your blueberry muffins, and you put like, so in each one of the tins, you would put like a handful of broccoli, of cauliflower, bell peppers, any sort of whatever vegetable you want. And then you basically just scramble up your eggs, just like you'd make regular scrambled eggs, but then you pour them in the muffin tin, pour the eggs over the vegetables in the muffin tin, and then you just bake it for like 20-30 minutes until the eggs are set. Then you have these individual little egg cups. Very easy if you're on the go, if you're busy, if you don't want to cook breakfast in the morning, that you can get your vegetables in, get a little bit of protein and healthy fat from your eggs. So that's an easy way to get some vegetables in there. I'm not an egg eater myself, so let's see if I have my handy dandy. I do. It doesn't look very pretty, but this is what I had for lunch today. Doesn't that look beautiful? So I put my spinach inside of a smoothie, and I have this every single day, and I swear by it. And I always tell people this is how I keep my skin really clear, is I just put all my fruits and veggies inside of a smoothie and blend it up. And like, this is just one of those little countertop blenders. Just has, again, it's not very pretty right now because I've used it, but I used some almond milk, all the veggies, all the fruits. This one had mango specifically in it this morning. And then I have like a little, you just put it upside down and you twist it and it blends it all up. Then I just put it in the fridge here at work today. And that way I had it ready to go with me. So smoothies, I've worked with some people that have a couple opinions when it comes to smoothies. Either they don't like them or they just get sick of drinking them every day. I'm sure you guys have heard of Pinterest. There are millions of smoothie recipes out there so that you can constantly change it up. I've had ones with berries in them, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. You can put some protein powder in them to kind of change up the powder or change up the flavor. You can put vanilla, you can put chocolate, all the different things that you can do. I've made like a snickerdoodle one where you put some cinnamon in it, so it tastes like, you know, a little snickerdoodle cookie. You can get very creative with smoothies, and almost everything that you put in there from a vegetable perspective, like you can put cauliflower in a smoothie, you can put spinach in a smoothie, you can put kale in a smoothie. I really like this mixture called Power Greens, one of my favorites, and you cannot taste it. I swear to you when I say that. I have a 2-year-old daughter at home that will drink my smoothies and she can't taste it. So on top of that, as you start to transition more, we talked about this again the other day in our support group, as you start to transition more from standard American diet, that the food is very salty and sugary, to more of a plant-based or whole foods or clean eating, foods that don't have like that chemically kind of enhanced flavors, your taste buds will start to change, that you will start to enjoy that stuff more. There's a law, it's called the law of adaptation. Our bodies, our taste buds, everything will adapt to the demands we put on them. So in the beginning, you might drink that smoothie and be like, that's not the greatest thing in the world. But as you start to do it more and more, and Suzanne's kind of shaking her head. Have you experienced this? When you first started eating this way, it was a little different at first, right?
Yeah. And
But
now
the more you-
now when I try things that I used to eat, they're not appealing any longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Your taste buds will adapt.
Yeah.
I did some nutrition coaching with this girl that ate 0 servings of vegetables a day. And after working with her for about 2 months, she sent me a text one morning and I woke up to it and it just made my whole day. She goes, I woke up craving a sweet potato. I don't even like sweet potatoes, but it was just her taste buds changed because she was starting to decrease a lot of that processed foods, increase more of the nature made foods. And then your taste buds start to enjoy the flavor of those. So again, when I first started drinking green smoothies, they weren't my favorite. I had to kind of choke it down. Now I love them. Like it's kind of my treat. Like I could have that instead of ice cream in the evening, and they're very tasty. So does it help at all, Dorothy, with some ways to kind of sneak in some veggies with breakfast? The other thing I would like to challenge you, when I said that at the beginning, I said there's no rules. I don't want to like encourage you to make this perfect or to get it right. I want you just to experiment and what works well for your life and your body and your taste buds and what you enjoy. Because I want this to be an enjoyable experience for you so that you'll stick with it. But nobody made a rule that said eggs and cereal and oatmeal were the only things we're allowed to have for breakfast. There have been times in my life where I have had salads for breakfast. There's been times in my life where I've had, let's say roast with carrots and potatoes and all the, even without the meat part, like just say if you're trying to do vegetables, having like, something like that, like where you're doing roasted vegetables and having them for breakfast, maybe with some avocado over the top of them or something like that. Like there's no fast and hard rule that you have to eat breakfast food at breakfast. You can create your own little thing. And I'm a big fan of creating whatever works for you. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Dave, I'm going to ask to unmute you, sir, if you are still with us.
I am here.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Hello, I'm good.
Good.
No questions really.
Okay. Can I ask
I'm
you
here.
a question?
Sure.
What do you feel like is your biggest struggle when it comes to nutrition? Do you have any struggles?
Do I have any struggles? Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay.
Remember those chocolate chip cookies we were talking about?
I know. Dave and I we bond over our chocolate chip cookie addicts. Yes. So with that, like with chocolate, a lot of times, so have you guys ever heard of the sugar cycle? How a lot of people have anyone ever used this term? I'm a sugar addict. Anyone ever use that term? I'm a sugaraholic, I'm chocolateaholic, something along those lines. I could, right? I'll have to send it out. There's like a visual. It'd be very hard for me to show on the camera right here. But there's a visual that shows the cycle of sugar, right? The biggest reason that we crave it or that we're addicted to it or that we're an addict to it is because we eat it, right? So when you look at the cycle of it, as soon as you eat the sugar, it like spikes your dopamine, it gives you that real like excited feeling. It increases your blood sugar, so you feel really good. And then when you start to come down from the sugar, that's when you start to get that sugar crash and the low and like, whoa, you just feel tired. I'm sure you can see kids when they're all hopped up on sugar and then they crash. And then as soon as we start to have the crash, that's when we crave more of it, because most of us in this world, we want to feel good, right? We want that dopamine spike. We want the sugar spike. We want the blood sugar spike. We want all the highs. And so when we're eating sugar and we go through this cycle, as soon as the sugar starts to leave our bloodstream, that's when the cravings are going to start to come back, because now we want to feel good again. And we can do that same thing. We can get that same high and stuff from our food, eating fruit, right? So we can swap out a lot of like the chocolate chip cookies and the ice creams and stuff like that, swap that for fruit. So you're still getting that sweet kind of sensation, the sweet taste, but from something that has fiber and water and nutrients. So it's more satiating and satisfying to both our brain and our body. But also allowing yourself times, i.e. Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday parties, whatever it is, allowing that time where you take the restriction out and you do indulge and you appreciate those things and you just kind of find contentment with the fact that it tastes good, but then just leaving it there. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. For a lot of us, it's hard. There's a woman out there called Gretchen Rubin. Has anyone ever heard of Gretchen Rubin? She's an author. She's got a podcast, stuff like that. But she has a theory that everybody in the world is either an abstainer or a moderator. And when you take someone who's an abstainer, i.e. someone like me, I do better if I just don't have sugar. Because as soon as I have it, we've talked about before, as soon as I have the cookie, I'm going to want 5 of them. So I do better just abstaining from it altogether. Now there's going to be a certain amount of people who are better at moderating. Give me 1 cookie and I'll be fine. I'm not going to think about it ever again. I just need the 1. So those are more your moderators. So when you take someone, so like knowing yourself, the mindfulness of knowing yourself and what your weaknesses are, if you are truly an abstainer, it's probably hard for you to moderate. I'm going to have 1 cookie and be content with that. If you're a moderator and someone tells you don't eat sugar ever, you're not going to be able to stick with it because you do fine in moderation. So kind of knowing yourself and knowing where those boundaries lie for you are huge when it comes to this kind of a journey. But so that's how I personally try to kind of coach people through like sugar addiction, is knowing your boundaries, knowing if you're setting yourself up for failure, knowing if you're okay moderating, things like that. So, and then finding healthy swaps. Again, going back to the fruit, one of my other favorite things is to take an avocado, mix a little cocoa powder with it, put a little honey with it, mix it all up. It's like an avocado pudding. It sounds super weird, but I promise you it's good. Especially if you dip like some berries or something like that in there. It's super good. Super good. Does that help at all for you, Dave?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then Patricia, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I have a question. You know, on TV, they really advertise that balance of nature for vitamins.
Okay, is this like a supplement?
Yeah, it's
Supposed to be all fruits and vegetables.
yeah, it's supposed to be all fruits and vegetables.
And so your question, is it good? Is it bad? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, is it actually filled with vitamins and nutritionists?
Yeah. And to be honest, like to be just blunt in the aspect of, I'm not familiar with the product to be able to give you the best feedback on that and to say, yes, that product is great, or no, that product is not. I will tell you, and what I've been taught when it comes to supplements specifically, the majority of them, our body has a very hard time absorbing. So just to put out a generic number, and every supplement company is going to be different, but a generic number is about 30% of the vitamins you take from an actual like capsule, your body's going to actually absorb and utilize. About 70% just kind of gets wasted. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to take them, but getting your nutrients from whole foods compared to like a nutrient or like a supplement is going to be way more beneficial to your body. Also because the vitamin, so like the capsule, the supplement itself isn't going to have the water, and it's not going to have the fiber, and it's not going to have like, I like to look at the fact that like the food wasn't created perfectly. Like, you know,
It's not
nature
gonna
created
taste as good
food.
either.
Say it again.
It's not going to taste as good either.
Yes, yes, yes. And again, that does come with the more you eat the food straight from the earth, you know, like your carrots and your broccoli and your apples and stuff like that. The more you eat it, your taste buds will start to appreciate the taste of real food versus the more packaged food. It just takes us a while. I would say for the majority of people, anywhere from like 21 to 30 days, your taste buds can really have a 360. It can really start to, you can start to appreciate the crispness and the juiciness and the sweetness of an apple versus that sweetness from a cookie. you'll start to really appreciate it a lot more as you start to let your taste buds adapt to, it's just, again, it's just most of us from a very young age, like I didn't eat a whole lot of nature-made foods, plant-based foods from a kid. Like it was something that it took me a while as I transitioned from an adult to really enjoy and appreciate the taste of something like a sweet potato and an apple and bell peppers and stuff like that. So just
Thank
takes some time. But yeah, I'm
Thank
not against the supplement, just to wrap up the question on that, Patricia. I'm not against the supplement. I would just be more of an advocate of getting the nutrients from plants versus the supplement.
Yeah, they advertise it so much and really hawk it, and I don't like to take anything. I don't have to, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not something I would say you need or is required or anything like that. So yeah, if you're eating, I mean, supplements are truly meant to supplement our diet. They're not supposed to be, well, I get all my nutrients from my supplements, therefore I don't need to eat the fruits and the veggies. It should be just to kind of fill in the gaps of where we're not getting, if we're not eating 3 to 5 servings of vegetables a day and a couple of fruits a day and, legumes and whole grains, if you're not getting all the nutrients from the food, then add in the supplement to kind of fill in the gaps.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And to wrap up here, what I would like to just encourage you guys with, your homework is going to be, you have 3 parts to your homework. 1, after tomorrow. So don't do it tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't count. Tomorrow's your free day. Friday or even Monday, everyone likes to start a diet on a Monday, even though this is not a diet. I want you to start kind of tracking your food and just become aware to the foods that you eat. What is the bulk of your meal plan? Where are most of the foods coming from? Are they processed? Are they whole? Do they come from the ground? Do they come from an animal? Where is the bulk of your food coming from? A lot of times it's hard for us to fix stuff that we don't really have the awareness of what we're actually eating. So just kind of start with some food tracking, journaling, just start become aware to the foods that you're eating. The second part is, at the end of the day, I want you to just take notice of how you feel. So what's your overall energy level for the overall energy levels for the day, your overall mood for the day, your digestive concerns for the day, your sleep for the night. So the next day you might want to just, how did I sleep last night? I can tell you, again, just a piece of my journey. When I eat a high sugar diet, a high sugar day, I struggle to sleep a lot that night. And then the next day I wake up restless and I struggle to fall asleep and things like that. So just some things to be aware of. Just start to notice all the different things that you're feeling, and then look at all the foods that you ate that day. And then last but not least, increase those veggies. So get yourself where you can say, I am eating 5 servings of veggies a day. When you conquer that, then we can move on to kind of the 4th piece of the homework, where it's, let's decrease a lot of the processed foods, a lot of the sugar, start to look at that. But before you even attempt that, try to see if you can get to 5 servings a day. Give yourself a while to get there, take a month if you need, take 2 months if you need, but make that a challenge for yourself, that you're going to try to sneak in those 5 veggies every day. Sound good? Everybody up for their homework?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys having me today. This was super fun.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Especially thank you, Ashley. That was so fun. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, indeed. Is anybody traveling for Thanksgiving, or is everyone sticking close to home?
Sticking close to home.
Yes, sticking close to home.
Good.
All right. Well, stay healthy and stay well.
Yes.
We'll see you next time, okay?
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Bye-bye.